Live and streaming, this is KSL News at 4.
Lots of people make mistakes and don't shoot cops in cold blood. And so I don't know the details about this particular suspect and his mental state, but he deserves the death penalty.
Utah's governor there taking a firm and unapologetic stand today in favor of the death penalty for the man accused of killing 2 Tremont and Garland police officers.
His comments coming just hours after formal charges were filed against the suspected shooter, 32-year-old Ryan Bate. News specialist Shara Park joins us from the newsroom with a breakdown of those charges. Shara?
Yeah, Mike and Debbie, it's not clear if the governor gave his input to prosecutors before this morning, but these charges make it clear that the state is seeking the death penalty in this case. In total, Ryan Bate faces 20 charges ranging from first-degree aggravated murder to attempted aggravated murder to possessing dangerous weapons and explosives to domestic violence in front of a child. The charges Bate faces for assault, unlawful detention, and threats of violence are classified as domestic violence charges and were heightened in severity due to his history with domestic abuse. Now, the charges filed in Brigham City's First District Court give a detailed description of what happened Sunday night when Sergeant Lee Sorensen and Officer Eric Estrada were killed, and Deputy Mike Allred and his K-9 partner were injured. According to these charges, during an argument, Bate assaulted and threatened to kill his wife, and in an attempt to summon law enforcement, she called 911 and hung up. The first officer to arrive at the house, according to neighbor accounts, was Sergeant Sorensen, but after speaking to the couple, who assured him there was no violence, he began to leave. According to the charges, as Sergeant Sorensen was driving away, Bate shot at his car with a rifle. He called for backup, but then got out of his car to help Bate's wife, who came running down the street yelling that her husband had a gun. It was then, as Sergeant Sorensen attempted to cross the street to get to her, he was shot and killed. According to the charges, moments later, Officer Estrada arrived on scene to see Sergeant Sorensen lying in the road. He then ran to help his fallen colleague. He too was then shot and killed. Then, as Box Elder County Sheriff's Deputy Mike Allred arrived, Bate fired 2 more rounds into his truck, barely missing him, but causing both he and his K-9 serious injuries. Now, there are a few more details to this case that we learned from these charges today. Bate also shot at a neighbor driving by in a silver vehicle that looked like an unmarked police vehicle, hitting it and barely missing the driver, who was then able to flee from the scene. He, quote, then approached the 2 fallen officers with a revolver and rifle in hand as he continued to look around for other targets. Now, during a search of Bates' home, officers located 3 Molotov cocktails. Bate is now being held in the Weber County Jail. He hasn't appeared in court yet on these charges, but that appearance will likely happen in the next few days. Mike and Debbie.
Oh, it is chilling to hear those details. Shara Park live for us. Shara, thank you.
Yeah.
Well, the governor beginning his monthly news conference today with
The arguments.
Live and streaming, this is KSL News at 5.
Well, thanks for joining us. The state will seek the death penalty for the man accused of ambushing and killing 2 Tremont and Garland police officers.
It is one of several new developments in the case today as charges were filed against the accused gunman. We do have live team coverage for you today on the fallout from Sunday's attack. News specialist Shara Park joined us live in the newsroom with reaction from the governor today. Shara?
Yeah, Mike and Debbie, this right here is the state's filing a notice of intent to seek the death penalty for Ryan Michael Bate, the man accused of killing Sergeant Lee Sorensen and Officer Eric Estrada. It was filed overnight in Brigham City, and just hours later, Governor Spencer Cox affirmed his support for it.
Lots of people make mistakes and don't shoot cops in cold blood. And so I don't know the details about this particular suspect and his mental state, but he deserves the death penalty.
Well, Bate faces 20 charges ranging from first-degree aggravated murder and attempted aggravated murder to possessing dangerous weapons and explosives and domestic violence in front of a child. Now, these charges offer a chilling glimpse into the terror that unfolded the night Sergeant Sorensen and Officer Estrada were killed. According to the probable cause, it says Bate assaulted and threatened to kill his wife, and in an attempt to summon law enforcement, she called 911 and hung up. It also says after Bate shot at responding Officer Number 1's car, which, according to witnesses, eyewitness accounts was Sergeant Sorensen's car. That officer then got out to help Bates' wife, who came running down the street yelling that her husband had a gun. It was then, as he was attempting to cross the street to get to her, that officer was shot and killed. Now, there are new details from the night of that shooting. You can read about those right now on KSL-TV.com. But today, Governor Spencer Cox said that state leaders are looking into whether the legal system should be strengthened in light of this case and revelations that Bate has a history of domestic violence. However, he said even that with that history, it wouldn't have made it possible to predict his actions Sunday night. Debbie?
All right, it is such a tragedy. Shara, thank you. Well, this all started as a...
Well, today marks the final day of Major League Soccer's secondary transfer window. It's the last day that teams can register new players to the roster through trade or transferring from clubs in other countries. Today was a pretty busy day for Real Salt Lake, needless to say. RSL traded Bodie Hidalgo to CF Montreal, but also they acquired defender DeAndre Yedlin from FC Cincinnati in a trade. They sent $304,000 in general allocation money to Cincy. Yedlin has played in the English Premier League for 7 seasons, as well as 2 seasons in Turkey. He's also appeared in 81 games for the U.S. men's national team. He's 32 years old, but he still feels like he's got a lot to give.
I still feel youthful, at heart. Physically, I still feel great. I just think mentally I'm more mature, I guess. So, while it's obviously helping perform on the pitch, it's also off the pitch, helping the younger guys who were in the same positions that I was. But I'm excited to work with this team. Everybody's been super welcoming, and that makes this transition so easy. So, yeah, I'm just excited to get started.
Big scheduling changes.
Jody, thank you. The man accused of shooting and killing the 2 officers will make his initial appearance in court tomorrow morning. Ryan Bate facing 20 charges, and state prosecutors say they will seek the death penalty. Governor Spencer Cox making it very clear today he supports that decision.
Lots of people make mistakes and don't shoot cops in cold blood. And so I don't know the details about this particular suspect and his mental state, but he deserves the death penalty.
Governor Cox adding state leaders are looking into what changes, if any, the legal system needs in light of this case. However, he says even with Bates' history of domestic violence, his alleged actions Sunday night were impossible to predict. Our team is staying on top of all of this. People in Provo do not seem to be getting the message about flying drones near wildfires. There were 3 more incidents today, and now law enforcement is actively looking for the offenders here. The rugged terrain making aircraft critical in the fight against the Buckley Draw fire, but they all have to be grounded when there is a drone in the area. Even worse here, someone flew a drone right in the flight path of helicopters, posing a deadly risk to those pilots. Flying drones in closed airspace over fires is illegal, and drone detection equipment has been brought in to help track down whoever is flying them. Simply put, don't do it. All right, let's head on over to Kevin.
Season. Today marks the final day of Major League Soccer's secondary transfer window. That's the last day that teams can register new players to the roster, either through trade or transferring from clubs in other countries. Well, today was a pretty busy day for Real Salt Lake. RSL traded Bodie Hidalgo to CF Montreal, but they also acquired defender DeAndre Yedlin from FC Cincinnati in a trade. They traded him for $304,000 in general allocation money. Yedlin has played in the English Premier League for 7 seasons, as well as 2 seasons in Turkey. He's also played in 81 games for the U.S. men's national team. He's 32 years old, but he says he still feels he's got a lot to give.
I still feel youthful, at heart. Physically, I still feel great, more mature, I guess. So, while it's obviously helping perform on the pitch, it's also off the pitch, But I'm excited to work with this team. Everybody's been super welcoming, and that makes this transition so easy. So, yeah, I'm just excited to get started.
Final event of the